Okay, so I want you to know, I have 41 chairs in my house. 41. Now this makes me feel like maybe I have a little problem, right? You can imagine my house just like surrounded by chairs. Like maybe I live in a mansion. Actually, if you walk into my 3-bedroom home, you would notice that I just have like a dining room table, a game table, sectional couch that seats 5, a window seat. But if you count every single place inside and outside of my house, there are 41 chairs. 41 different places that I can put my behind from day to day to day, including that little chair in the bathroom. Yeah. We spend our life, most of us, some people have physical labor jobs, and thank you for doing them, but many of us, myself included, move from chair to chair to chair all day long. We move from the breakfast chair, maybe we get in our car, which is a chair on wheels. We go to work, we sit at our office, which is another chair. So it's just chair, chair, chair. During the pandemic, this never was so obvious. When I'm sequestered in my home with my 41 chairs, I was like, all I do is move from chair to chair. And as a wellness practitioner, I was like, I have got to get some exercise in. So we carved out a little space in the basement, in the rec room. And I had been going to a gym for years, so I was like, I got this. I'm just gonna go down there and do the thing. And I would go down there, and I would just end up laying on the floor looking at the ceiling every single time. And I was like, why is this so hard? Like, am I broken? And then I started to think about exercise, and it dawned on me what exercise is, because everything in my life has been automated, and I didn't have to do any real work anymore. I had to make up for it by doing this thing called exercise, which is actually just fake work. Right? So that's why we don't want to do it. It makes sense now. If you think about it, all of our exercise are these like contrived movements that mimic the real work that our ancestors used to have to do. Like they used to saw wood, and we do dumbbell rows. They used to build a wall and lift up big things and put them on top stone walls, and we do a clean and jerk with a big barbell. They used to row to the fishing grounds to go out there and fish, and we just row and row and row to nowhere on our rowing machine. If you think about it, we don't really even get any work done while we're doing this exercise thing. If you walk into the gym, and over here, the beginning of your workout, there's all the dumbbells and the barbells, and over here, there's all the treadmills. You could go in there and you could do your hardest workout ever. And when you're walking out the door, if you turn and look back at the gym, you're gonna see the barbells and the dumbbells sitting right where they were when you got there, and the treadmills are right over there. We didn't do real work. So we do this thing called exercise, which is fake work. So why? I'm laying on the floor. Why do we have to do this? Our ancestors, prior to all of our automation, had to move around in order to feed themselves and shelter themselves. And the chemistry of physical movement is embedded in our body. We still need it. We're the same kind of humans as our ancestors, and our body is looking for the chemical signal of physical activity. The same holds true for eating whole foods. When we eat whole foods, it changes the chemistry in our body. And the same thing happens with this thing called stress management. Have you guys heard about this ever? In my world, when I think about stress management, I think about how I take the time to connect with myself, how I take time to connect with the people in my world, and take time to connect with something that's greater than myself. Our ancestors kind of had all those embedded in their life as well. They had a lot of slow downtime in between their hunting and gathering. They had a small clan that they lived with, and they were surrounded by something literally that is larger than themselves. So connection was also embedded in our chemistry. And sleeping at night is embedded in our chemistry. When the sun goes down, there's not a lot to do. Well, I mean, there's one thing to do, except go to sleep. So we are connected with the diurnal day-night sleep-wake cycle. All 4 of these inputs provide a chemical signal that our body is waiting for. See that guy in the middle? That's the same guy that was on the last slide. That's us and our ancestors. Our body is waiting for the chemical inputs from whole food, movement, a diurnal sleep-wake cycle, and connection. And if you think about what surrounds us now, we have a lot of prepackaged food that's missing a lot of nutrients. Tastes darn good though, don't it? We all have a device in our hands so much of the time that provides us distraction and prevents us from connecting even with ourselves, let alone our community and that's larger than us. And we wake to an alarm in the dark, and then we go to sleep at night with our phone in our face, that light right in our eyeballs. And some people have like 41 chairs too, that keeps them from moving around during the day. So, our environment really does not match what our body needs. So we created this thing called self-care, which is diet, exercise, sleep, stress management. Diet, exercise, sleep, stress management. You hear about them all the time. And that's because there's a ton of data, it's irrefutable, that when we engage in these 4 activities, we feel better. We feel better in our body, and we feel better in our brain. We're better able to, we think more clearly, we may have more emotional control. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever missed 3 or 4 nights of good sleep. I'm a little grumpy. Anyway, so these things called self-care are activities that we engage in to try to recreate the chemistry of our ancestors, like the chemistry of whole foods, the chemistry of movement, the chemistry of sleep. Self-care is a social construct that we made up because our environment makes us sick. Our ancestors did not practice self-care. Self-care is not normal or natural human behavior. And this is why it is so hard. Laying on the floor in my basement, I was feeling broken. What is wrong with me? I'm not broken, and neither are you. We're just trying to do something that humans have never had to do before. We're attempting to close the gap between the environment that we find ourselves in and the chemistry, the chemical signaling that our ancestors naturally had and that our bodies are still looking for. Our ancestors never had to make healthy choices. because they didn't have a choice, right? So it's not normal or natural to have to rely on willpower to stay well. In our culture, willpower and this thing called self-care are kind of talked about as if they were really simple, really easy. In fact, if you go to your physician and talk to them about your wellness, they might say something like, just eat less, move more. Or you might follow someone on social media who's like a wellness influencer, and they might say, just find exercise you love. But what are the chances really that that's going to happen? Exercise we love, if it's fake work. Just do it. That's another thing we hear, right? So all of these things together minimize culturally how difficult it is to care for ourselves. And the tragedy is that this makes us quit. When someone tells you something's really easy and you try it and find it to be difficult, it makes us feel humiliated. It makes us feel broken. It makes us feel like there's something wrong with us. And my wish for you here tonight is to walk away from that idea that you are broken. Self-care is a very complicated process. It's something we have to do a lot and for a long time. When we call self-care what it is, a complicated problem, a complex problem, we approach self-care with a different mindset. We bring something to the problem besides just willpower. Imagine you were trying to do something really hard, like, I don't know, maybe there's someone in your family that's sick and you're trying to figure out how to get around the clock care for a person that you love. This is a complicated problem. You wouldn't be like, I asked one person and they said, no, I'm done. You would figure out and be like, well, that didn't work. What are we going to do now? You would try something new. And so my hope for you with self-care is that you find other things besides willpower to close this gap, to generate the chemistry that your body needs through movement, through good sleep, through whole foods, and through stress management and connection, through other things on this list. The thing I was missing when I'm laying on the floor in the basement during the pandemic was my social network. It turns out I'm just competitive enough and just vain enough and just enough of a people pleaser that I exercise way better with other people in the room. They keep me honest, right? And so I didn't do well in the basement, so I had to re-engage my social network, which could be, for me, people in person with me to walk with or ride a bike with, but it also can be, because we have the technology now, someone who's even at a distance from us. It could be someone who lives really far away from you but is in a group on a yoga class with you, for instance. I hope that you will think about these things on this list if you have time to throw at a problem. Like, have you guys ever tried to compress the hours of sleep you need? Like, I think I'm just gonna get 5 hours tonight and that'll be enough. It just doesn't work. Like, you can't compress sleep. It just takes the amount of time that it takes. So time is something you can throw at a problem. Money is something you can throw at a problem. For if you've never been physically active and you want to be, and you have some extra money, you should hire a trainer to make you show up. Not just for 6 sessions, maybe for the rest of your life. When we think about self-care and we're wondering how to get this to roll in my life, the only way to do it is to approach it with compassion, to approach it with kindness, and to approach it with curiosity. Because as soon as we step in and say, dang, I suck at this, we're gonna shut the door on learning for ourselves. We're gonna shut the door on any iterative progress that we make. So we have to stay open, we have to stay kind, we have to stay compassionate. My wish for you is that you never cement a negative notion about your worth if you find self-care difficult. Our cultural language suggests that it's easy, but it is complicated. But it is your birthright as a human to feel well, to feel engaged, to be able to do the things that matter to you, to be able to show up and be with the people that you love. And when we practice self-care, we have greater strength, greater vitality, greater mental and emotional clarity, and a greater capacity to experience awe and wonder. So, don't you dare quit on yourself. And don't you dare quit on us, because the world needs you at your best right now. Thank you. Take care of yourself.